One of my absolute favorite things to do when tracking in my studio is to create parts that come from layers. And when I say that, I mean putting together acoustic drums, percussion, and a lot of times programming as well. And what I find is that the end result is oftentimes greater than the individual parts themselves. Today I want to deep dive on one of those tunes with you guys, so let's check it out. Since I started doing remote tracks almost 20 years ago, I've always really been interested in creating parts through layers. And one of the major advantages of having your own setup is that it allows you to experiment and spend extra time on things that might normally not happen because you have the added pressure of the clock ticking or other people being around. That has also in turn really helped me for taking this kind of approach into in-person sessions. This tune was written by my buddy Zach Provost, who is a fantastic singer-songwriter, piano player, and he was also the musical director for Josh Groban for many years. A couple of weeks ago, Zach brought this tune over and we got to collaborate on it together in person, which was really fun. One song that Zach mentioned as a reference when we got together was the song Biko by Peter Gabriel, which I definitely took as an inspiration for some of the parts that I created here. As usual, I'm going to take you guys through the gear that I used and why, and we're going to go under the hood in the Pro Tools session and just examine all the different layers and see what I did here. I thought it would be cool to show you guys one of the Taos drums from the kit that I used. This is the 14-inch drum that I used in the high tom position. And there was also an 18-inch floor tom. And you can see that this is actually a rope drum, meaning these animal heads are stretched across the top and bottom and then roped together and woven through in order to keep the heads in place. You can also see that there is a DW mount here. So the reason for that is I wanted to have a kit that I could use in regular drum set positions. So I had the floor tom that you saw here with legs installed, and then obviously this drum with a regular mount so that I could just put it on whatever stands I already have. I also ordered two smaller drums as well. And this was actually special ordered for this tour I did last year with Sarah McLachlan for the 30th anniversary of her record called Fumbling Towards Ecstasy. There were Taos drums all over that record, and I thought the best way to reproduce that would be to actually order some of these drums and bring them on tour. I'm gonna put a link right up here if you wanna check out the full rig rundown from that tour. Here's the set of concert toms, 10, 12, 14. There's the Taos drums sitting mellow after the session. The kit, same kick drum that I use quite a bit. Same toms I use quite a bit. This time I wanted this sort of shorter, sustained, thuddy kind of thing. So I put the, I don't know if you can see the logo here, but there's a Nelson Drum Shop logo. These are actually really great. They are unique. They have a thing, these Nelson Drum Shop rags with the old paperclip idea. The crash cymbals and ride cymbal 602s, old 602s here, and this gorgeous legacy crash that I use all the time. New beat hi-hats for the foot stomps on 2 and 4. All right, time to go through this Pro Tools session. We have quite a bit here. There are two kits, which is, of course, the traditional kit with toms and bass drum, and then we have the Taos drums as another kit. We have a set of concert toms, we have some cymbal overdubs, and we have some shaker as well. So let's go through all of that. Before we do, let's just have a quick listen to just everything, and I'm going to include piano, keyboards, guitar, and muted vocals from the tracks that I got from Zach. So here we go. let's mute the tracks now, and then we'll listen from the top one more time, just so you can hear a little bit of all of this by itself before I start breaking it down. We'll actually start kind of close to where all of the drums and percussion are in together. I think one thing I want to point out right away before I even start breaking this down is hopefully you can hear how all of this stuff comes together to create the momentum for the rhythm. And of course, the really cool thing about having all of this stuff be separate is, number one, I can layer it and send it to the artist and the mix engineer the way that I see it, the vision that I have for it, meaning building with certain things coming in at different times and being taken out at certain times, which you can already hear here as well. And also the ultimate thing for a mix engineer in these kind of situations is to be able to individually control and process each element, or within reason process each element. Now let's go up and listen to the main kit for a minute and just go through that a little bit, because it's probably the most involved of anything. So there's the kick drum. So we listen, kick in. This is again my Gretsch 22. Kick out. And that's how they add up. Again, a nice satisfying sound having the outside kick and the inside kick together. Really the only EQ I'm doing here is I like to add a little bit of, it looks like here it's about 3.3K to the outside kick mic, and in this case I've added just under 5 dB. It just adds a little bit of extra presence to everything. Okay. Now there's no snare in this track, so let's jump right to the, this is the stereo overhead. Basically just capturing a little bit of everything, and I think it's kind of a nice way of capturing the hi-hat in a setting like this. It's nice to have control of the hi-hat, but it's not necessarily something that needs to be on its own mic. Mono overhead. I'm doing something that I do quite often, which is to add decapitator. And I'm hitting it pretty hard. Got a drive level of 5, and with the punish button on, it looks like I'm basically leaving alone most of the rest of the parameters. This is without it. Big difference in volume, but also tonality. So the room mics, so the Coles 4038s, they are going through the outboard pair of distressors that I have, which is what you're hearing in terms of compression. Let's listen to a segment of the two toms together. Adding the stereo overheads. Let's jump down now and just listen to a segment of this with the reverb. So with reverb, muted. In a case like this, I enjoy relying on the reverb as a way to lengthen the tone of the toms without them being too much in the way of everything else. When the extension of the tone comes from the reverb, it kind of tends to go behind everything, but it subliminally is adding up and making you feel like everything's a lot bigger and a lot wider. And finally, let's just listen to a little bit of the parallel compression. And I'm sending the kick in, the stereo overheads, and both toms to that compression. So I'm sending it via a bus, and then I'm using this nifty plugin here, the Solid State Logic SSL 9000 from Plugin Alliance. And you can see I've got a fairly quick release, very fast attack, and a ratio of about 4:1. Okay, so let's listen in context. So that's with the compression parallel. So what you're missing there without it is everything is sort of lacking punch, and it kind of has a tendency to bring everything forward and into your face a little bit more, which I really love. Okay, so now let's mute up the main kit and let's go to the Taos kit by itself and have a listen to that. Okay, so you can see by looking at this segment right here that the majority of this is actually a full performance. Now, if you listen to the entire song, you'll realize that I'm playing the Taos drums are an actual pattern that I don't change for the entire song, but I actually decided to keep it as a full performance because I felt like it felt better without me trying to loop it. It just felt like I could move a little bit more with the main drum take that I had created and make sure that everything sounded good together. And then down here, we're going to listen to these individually, but I also played a headed tambourine as part of the pattern. So first, let's listen without that for a second. Just listen to the whole thing, just the Taos drums. That's the snare mic. There was a snare with no snares on. And that's the high rack tom, Taos drum, and the low one. And that's the melodic pattern right here. With the overheads included. Now in this case, the Coles kind of added something really cool. It just made the whole thing feel like it's in a bit more of a space. I moved them much closer to the door to capture the drums a little bit closer because I was playing these really quiet. So that's with the Coles, without. Now let's also add the mono overhead, which I call crush. Same kind of deal with this, hitting it fairly hard without the punish button on this time, but the decapitator is working at this one. So again, without that. And with. Okay, let's go down to the effects. The reverb channel, I'm using this Abbey Road Chambers plugin, which I adore and I think sounds fantastic. It sounds very unique. And then from there, I actually decided to add a spring reverb as well, which just sort of seemed to, but the two of them sort of seemed to make this thing feel just really spacey and mysterious and kind of odd sounding. So, which is what I was going for. I wanted this thing to have kind of a lo-fi feel to it. So this is all of that. Without the verb. Now you're also hearing a delay, which is coming from Valhalla delay. And what's sending there is everything except the stereo rooms and the crush are being sent to both the verb and the delay. Okay. And another cool thing I'm doing is I'm sending the delay channel back to the reverb as well. So what that actually means is that the delays that you're hearing are also being sent to a reverb. So along with being delays as they are and existing, they also open up inside the reverb, inside that chamber, which is a very cool effect as well. And then I have a parallel distortion channel, which is coming from Decapitator. I'm trying to add some edge to this just to make it feel not so clean, kind of trying to make it blend with the regular drum set, which is more of a hi-fi element. All right, let's listen to these tambourines on their own, or the tambourine tracks on their own. So I put one mic right over top of, I had the tambourine on a snare drum and I was playing it really lightly with my hands. So I had the mic right on top of it, and then I opened up one of my overhead mics, or my stereo overhead mics as well. And this is it in context. For the bridge section, Zach asked me to include something additional, and we had talked about the song Biko, and the thing I got from that song was the sort of sharp attack-based toms. So I decided to throw up my concert toms and see if he liked it, and it turns out that he did. So here's what we added in that section. So I have mics on each of the individual 3 toms. I have an overhead mic, single overhead mic, and they're being all sent to this reverb, Valhalla Vintage Verb, with a long hall reverb sound, dirty hall, with a pre-delay. And then you might notice that I have the reverb panned all the way on the opposite side of where I have the toms. So I have the toms all the way, or not all the way, but pretty much over to the left, and the reverb on the other side. And we also have a parallel compression channel with the same SSL console. Also in the bridge, we added some cymbal overdubs. Zach wanted some sort of time from the cymbals in there, and also there's some swells elsewhere in the song that we also used, but let's just listen to the bridge. So it's a ride cymbal. And then your typical swell type thing here. Let's listen to that by itself. And last but not least, I had a shaker going the entire time. And amazingly, I put a ton of effects on this. I did a high pass way up to, it looks like, 1370 hertz. There's some compression, 4:1. There is a decapitator, giving it a little touch of that. Valhalla Vintage Verb, putting it in a hall, giving it some space, putting it so I can set it back behind the rest of the music. And finally, I added a little altar boy and blended in. You can see it's a very small amount. If I do that, you'll hear that's what's going on underneath. Kind of adding just a little bit of thickness underneath the whole thing. So in context, here's the bridge. something that I think is really important to emphasize just to finish up here is that when I'm layering all these things together, it's not in an effort to make everything as drumistic as possible. It's actually quite the opposite. What I'm trying to do is distribute some of the timekeeping and some of the sonic palette to different parts of the kit and or to different kits altogether. And in this case, you'll notice that I combine all kinds of stuff. And what you end up with in the end is something that really drives and moves the song forward without drawing too much attention to itself. Let's check with our expert. Bamba, did you have any thoughts on that, buddy? We get a thumbs up? Paw? No paw? Okay, no problem. Everybody loves you. One thing I would suggest to all the drummers out there is to experiment and get comfortable with incorporating percussion and layers into the tracks you send for people. You can get creative and make sounds any way you want. There are no rules, or any rules that exist are just meant to be broken. Take, for example, the tambourine part I played on this song. That's completely unconventional and is definitely not something that a trained percussionist would ever do. Just remember the old adage that if it sounds good, it is good. I'll see you guys next time.